Hey, what's up? Today I'll be doing a tier list, but with my own little toxic spin on it. A lot of people do tier lists on DBD killers, but it's usually about how strong they are, how meta they are, or even how much they like playing as or against them. But for me, I always thought it'd be fun to make a tier list based off how much I hate you or how annoying you are based on what killers you main, or just play religiously. Now, this idea isn't entirely mine. There's an ex-Overwatch creator I like who made this list a while back, and I thought it was a great idea and could easily be applied to Dead by Daylight killers or even survivors, but maybe that's a video for another day. Tell me if you want to see that. I'll try to avoid being heavily biased, but this list at its inception is incredibly biased. So if your favorite killer is in the S tier, just know stereotypes don't apply to everyone. Anyways, without further ado, Trapper mains tend to be 40-something daddy bears with a full legacy character kit and 8,000 hours. And yet, despite having godly macro game sense and insane trap placement on every map, they still work a 9 to 5 and raise a family. Probably the oldest actual people when it comes to their main characters. And for someone who hates his own generation, that's gotta be a hard D tier. D tier is good, by the way. The lower the better. The lower the better, and the more to the right the better. These are the types of players who miss the older environments of the game and hate the newer, more open and bright maps with barely any grass to hide traps in. And they don't care if their character sucks ass or is low tier, they just love that noise. Wraith mains are fine, I guess. There's a lot of them, so it's a huge player pool to pick from, but personally, I think they're alright. I swear, I've been hard BM'd, humped, and slapped on hook by Wraith players in solo queue more than any other player in the game, so they get a few extra good points for that. They also just kind of seem to be mad at the world all the time, so I'll give them a mid tier, honestly. Hillbilly mains are like Diet Blight players. They play an extremely generically mained character who's incredibly strong and have a huge ego for it. The main difference is Hillbilly is much harder than Blight, so not any loser can pick him up in 4K versus 99% of all teams. They tend to be a little bit more self-aware and have less of an ego, but I'm still putting them in A tier because of the nature of the killer. This would have looked way different before 2024, by the way. Nurse is a hard S tier and probably the second hardest S tier on this list, and I shouldn't have to explain why. These are the types of no-soul players that just want to autopilot on a brain-dead character and get free wins. And the only defense I've heard for Nurse is that she's hard, which isn't true. She's mechanically harder than most killers, but her being so strong kind of outweighs that. I've also heard she needs to be this strong to avoid the game being pay to win, so the strongest killer is free, but you realize Hillbilly is like right there, right? If Hillbilly was the strongest killer in the game, we'd be in a much better spot, because even though he is really busted, he's still just way more skillful than this brain dead bullshit. Myers mains are rare to come by nowadays, and just like Trapper players, they tend to be fairly old people. They don't care that he's been F tier for years, and they don't care that he basically has no skill ceiling and pretty much no power to work with. They just want to be Myers, and honestly, I respect that a lot. D tier. You would expect me to put Hag super high because all they do is camp and no one plays her and blah blah blah, but honestly, Hag mains are pretty cool. They play an extremely niche killer who fits their weird playstyle, and is still one of the most unique killers in the game based on the fact that they don't have to chase anyone and can still win, unlike everyone else basically. You can win Hag games based off pure map knowledge and macro gameplay, and that's what draws them to her. I may be a little biased because Hag was actually my first main ever, believe it or not, but as the game has gone on, many older Hag players like me kind of just dropped her, since she hasn't really evolved with the game at all and is only really good for stomping solo queue nowadays. So them sticking to their guns is highly respectful. C tier. I don't really have any strong feelings on Doctor mains. They tend to be newer players because he's free on console, or people who just don't want to be in chase and always want to be doing something and not waste time looking for survivors, which is fair enough to me. The good ones, though, can make you feel completely powerless as survivor because they can time their shots through like 50 walls and deny anything I want to use and make everything into a dead zone. It makes me reconsider if he's actually a mid to low tier killer or not, considering his anti-stealth and passive slowdown. C tier. Okay, this one is bound to piss a lot of people off, but it's kind of what I'm known for, so it should be fairly on brand. Huntress is the second most generically mained Buzz Lightyear IL killer, but the people who play her tend to just ignore that and act like they're special for some reason. Saying I'm cracked at Huntress basically just means you have no personality. You'll make montages to shitty music of your cross-map snipes on AFK fresh installs, or bring an entire aura reading build only to fail and just end up face camping the first person they down just for a free win. Despite her being fairly easy and widely played and widely loved by both players and developers, you'll act like you're a special snowflake for maining such an old killer and have a huge ego over unimpressive shots you hit, since the hatchet hitbox size is just designed for bad players. She's the only killer that e-girls know how to play besides Nurse for some reason, and they'll clip their unimpressive 10-meter shots and send them right to their e-boy. If I keep going, I might start a why I hate Huntress and her player base video and talk about Coconut RTS or whatever, so I'm just gonna quit when I'm ahead. I just think you guys are really cringe. Hard S tier. Bubba mains used to face camp with Insidious and be based, but after the anti-camp got added, they just want to vie for survivor sympathy by playing a killer they tend to like, because he's incredibly easy to loop, like the easiest killer to loop in the game. B tier. Freddy mains didn't really exist since before the rework, but after the rework, they're awesome. He's, in my opinion, a very balanced killer and incredibly underrated because he has so many tools at his disposal. While he is weak to pre-dropping and the immunity of the alarm clocks is stupid, he still has the tools to take on most teams, and the people who play him just love using all his little tools tools to their fullest and won't get bored of a killer with so much to work with, who also has incredibly fun add-ons. D tier for sure. Okay, I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long, so let's just do a quick fire round on some of these, because I don't have a whole lot to say about the next few. Let's just blast through them pretty quickly. Pigmains like touching kids, and they have extremely cringe memes like Nerf the Pig or Boop the Snoot. The only ones I kind of like are the rabid pigmains who force your head to pop and are consistently angry at the game. I like those. A tier. Clown mains are D tier, enough said. Spirit tends to be one of the least played of the super high tier killers nowadays, but her player base still carries that smug aura and will always run Cherry Blossom and Mother-Daughter Ring. They don't play her because they like her power, because nothing is fun or satisfying about it. They just play her because she's really strong and easy. A tier. Legion mains are Valorant accent brobots who only play Legion to run a Susie skin and get 4 outed. It's a low tier killer, so I can't quite put him in S tier, but I really want to. A tier. He is my favorite killer to play in 2v8 though at the moment.
Alright, bad, fuck.
I don't really have much to say about Plague mains. There's the rare based one like Imagine JW, but in general there aren't many of them. And a lot of the ones just say Vommy Mommy lol and run her brain dead eerie add-ons every match. B tier. Ghostface mains don't care that they made a low tier killer. They just like the gameplay of being incredibly stealthy and jump scaring people, as well as teabagging them. D tier. Demogorgon mains still play Demo despite him getting power crept by so many better killers, and still having stupid built-in mechanics like Shred having a ridiculous miss cooldown, or portals not being able to be reset. Some vie for sympathy by playing a big Chungus killer that survivors like because he's weak, and others just like Stranger Things. They still get a bit lower though because of the actual stigma around them, and a lot of them being furries for some reason. A lot of them just want approval for maining a community favorite killer, and I swear I've unironically heard people call themselves Giga Chads for maining him, which is so incredibly cringe and out of touch. Oni mains have a sprinkle of that ego of the Blade or Nurse players, with it being held back slightly because of the nature of his power. He's a strong and widely loved and widely played killer, but he can't just win for free unless you're playing 2v8, so I'll give him a B tier. They tend to just really love the unique feel of his power and controlling it, which nothing else in the game really compares to, and I haven't even gotten close to mastering it myself. You think I'd put him high for this, but he still kind of breeds that type of player. Like Demogorgon, I've unironically heard people call themselves Giga Chads for maining him because it's like a Redditor power fantasy. Deathslinger mains would be D tier if there wasn't just a dash of Huntress ego in them, but they're just playing a weaker and much more skillful version of a brain dead killer, so I'll give them a low C tier. Pyramid heads are an endangered species nowadays, and it's weird because I swear when I started playing in like 2020, he was considered like a top 5 killer, and I saw him a lot. He's like one of the most forgotten killers nowadays, and all his mains want is for behavior to make his power less clunky and shitty to use, as well as a full add-on pass. They either just like Silent Hill or just fell in love with him when he came out, and they live for those blind prediction shots through walls. Either way, hard D tier. Blight mains are the top of the list. Watch this video for more information. The stereotype of Twins players is that they don't exist, but after the quality of life changes, I see them sometimes. Certainly more than Pyramid Head or Hag, and they're one of my favorite killers to play. I can respect anyone who has a good macro brain and plays a low pick rate killer who gets unplayably bugged for months at a time. C tier. Trickster mains tend to be like edgy 15-year-olds who are just mad at the world, or they're like Legion players and they just main him because of how he looks, not the gameplay. Either way, I'm just giving him a hard A tier and moving on because these people are cringe lords. Alright, we can tone down the quickfire round for now. Nemesis mains are cool. There's a large variety of them, and it could be anyone from just a Resident Evil fan, player who wanted Lethal Pursuer, to an absolute tentacle god who knows the vertical hitbox of every obstacle in the game, and you'll never know if they can hit you or not. There's too much variance in them, but overall they tend to be pretty chill and people who don't really care about the outcome of the match, and they usually have their egos in check. I'll give them a C tier. Pinhead is the hardest D tier in the game besides Clown. These guys love the macro gameplay of finding the box, and main an incredibly difficult character where your skill is properly rewarded, most of the time. He's also not played often because he's fairly hard to play and most people just want a brain dead easy win, and that's especially true now since he's the only killer in the game you currently can't buy if you don't have him because of copyright shenanigans. These guys are usually really good at the game and humble and can shit on a 4-man Swift using just their knowledge of the box placements and incredibly precise chain shots. Artist is another D tier because their player base tends to be incredibly chill. They live for the moments where they hit those cross-map shots through walls, and unlike Huntress droids, they don't have an ego about it or pretend to be quirky and different since her pick rate is so low. A lot of people just buy her for her perks and play her in sort of a bot way where you just use the birds to shut down a loop and force the survivor to hold W, but her mains are the ones who actually realize the infinite skill ceiling of the character and love experimenting with everything they can do. They just like playing her to like discover new things, which is just such a great way of playing killer. Sadako mains are incredibly rare nowadays after her 10th rework, and the ones that do play her have mastered the condemned macro gameplay, which I can always appreciate. There are some weirdos who play her, but overall the player base is pretty chill. C tier. Dredge mains are overall pretty cool, but usually in denial about how shit their killer actually is. They're used to saying stuff like, oh, he's just a jack of all trades and master of none, when he doesn't really do anything well at all, and even after the buffs, he's still really bad. Like, there's nothing really exciting or different you can do with Dredge, so a lot of the people who main him are just hypnotized by skins and buy every single one because they like flashy cosmetics more than actually playing a character. They're overall pretty chill though, so C tier. this one really sucks. Look, I know a lot of cool people who love and main Wesker, but holy shit, the amount of robots this character attracts. Like the people who have GIFs on their Steam profile of their shitty text versus AFK fresh installs, or the ones who make these fonk montages on TikTok. It is so fucking cringe. They have incredibly high egos despite playing such a ridiculously high pick rate killer. It's just so embarrassing. These guys are nearly Blight level with their shitty montages. I swear, I see Wesker players crying in endgame chat more than any other killer. And I don't even play Survivor that much. These are also the types of people who just like worship streamers and get really parasocial. They're the ones who would like verbally say Twitch emotes like PogChamp and shit like that and make it their whole personality. It's not as bad as Blight, and there are some good apples here and there, but like, I'm sorry, I have to. S tier.
Wesker mains are by far the players with the highest ego and the lowest age average, and I guarantee they played comp DBD at least once in their life.
Night mains are D tier easily. They know how to zone and corral survivors perfectly and have a mini-map with the survivor positions memorized in their brain for maximum efficiency. A good night main will pretty much always have 2 chases going on at once and can be completely unbullyable. A perfect multitasking macro killer for people who actually like using their brains instead of pressing right click towards the survivor and downing them instantly with no interaction. Cry about it. Skull Merchant players are kind of like the Trickster or Legion players where they play the killer because she's a girl boss and they're completely rotting on Twitter. I don't even know why you'd bother spending so much time learning and mastering a killer who's confirmed going to be changed later this year. There's just no point. The only player base she attracts after the massive nerfs are soulless boomers, and I hate them. I still can't put her in S tier in good faith because she's so weak and barely played, but top of A tier seems perfect for me. If you main this character, you're just screaming for TRT, and I'm sorry, I can't help you. You think I may have a bias here because I main Singularity, but honestly, there's a lot of weirdos who play Singularity. For some reason, he tends to attract a lot of furries, like a lot, and the memes I have about him are borderline as bad as like Boop the Snoot or Nerf Pig when it comes to the cringe level. I can't in good faith put him any higher than B tier because there are a lot of based people like me who play him because they love the surveillance playstyle and macro gameplay, but yeah, there's a lot of weirdos in there for sure. Xenomorph players are fine, I guess. They don't have much personality, which seems fitting nowadays because he's just a weaker nemesis with decent mobility, where you have to worry about flame turrets despite Blight existing. There are very few of them because his kit is just kind of recycled from other killers, and these other killers can't lose their power from being constantly harassed by obnoxious turrets, and they tend to just kind of be, like, average, I guess. But still, no real opinion on these guys. B tier. Chucky, when he first came out, had a dash, get it, of that smug dash killer ego, but after the various nerfs, I think top of D tier is a good spot. The people who play him just love the unique playstyle and mind games that come with being short and stealthy, and don't care that survivors still cry about him for some reason. Unknown mains are fine. They can be kind of cringe with the shit they say or post, but honestly, he's a fairly respectable character to main. I actually just don't really have any thoughts on him. He's fine. B tier. Moving on. Vecna mains, for some reason, are manly as fuck. I don't know where this comes from, but just the idea of being a wizard with 4 spells at the ready just seems to attract like the manliest types of players. Like, you think they play Oni or something, but no, I can't really argue with that, honestly, so I'll give them a D tier and move on. Dracula is becoming a new community favorite over time, but actual Dracula mains are extremely rare. A lot of people play him, but pretty much no one mains him, because specializing in a killer with so many little parts is less satisfying than getting really good at a core playstyle for a lot of people. The average player base for him are actually really bad at the game from what I've noticed. They use Hellfire wrong, they never zone with it, they always miss their second pounce in wolf form, they are incredibly easy to lose or stealth away from in bat form. Despite being such a strong killer, I swear no one has actually reached the skill ceiling because no one actually mains him. Just a weird observation I had. B tier. Yeah, Houndmaster mains kind of belong to that special snowflake category of people that I mentioned earlier. As someone who kind of tends to prefer the newer killers with their more well-rounded kits, I bought Houndmaster with Eerie Shards and still have yet to play her for more than 2 matches. And maybe it's a good thing I didn't because the people who hard main her are complete weirdos. They tend to be the quirky types and are just incredibly cringe and unfunny. I guess it's just the nature of having a killer that fits all these stereotypes, but if I get into that more, I might get canceled for the 40th time, so I'll just leave it here. A tier. Despite me defending him in the past and still really liking playing him, Kaneki players are fucking cringe, I'm gonna be honest. They have the Blight dash killer mindset with a hint of weeb, which is a horrifying concoction, honestly. Especially if they use the Rize skin, you know what types of people these tend to be. They're usually incredibly angry and entitled for some reason, despite playing a really strong killer. Low S tier only because he's so new, but it might actually get worse. Honestly, I don't think it could get much worse than Blight, but like Blight players, they tend to be extremely cringe egomaniacs who will never take accountability for something, and somehow think they're special despite maining such a heavily mained character. Springtrap is the first sign of the new gens coming to infest DBD, and even as a FNAF fan myself, I could not get into his kit. He'll in the long run probably end up being a killer like Xenomorph, where people who main him are just maining him for the hype factor and don't really click with any of his abilities. After a month of the FNAF chapter being out, they'll go back to playing Huntress or whatever, because they'll realize how reskinned his kit actually is. See this video for more information. Basically, I'm saying if you main him, you're a brobot with no personality and I don't like you. Well, that was my list, and I hope it pissed you off. If you thought I was wrong about any of these placements, tell tell me why in the comments, although this list is very opinionated and not meant to be taken extremely seriously. Maybe I'll do one of these for survivors in the future, but there's honestly not as much to talk about. Okay, I don't have anything else to say. Okay, bye. Hope it pissed you off.